What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And this is The Unbreakable Boy. I'm reviewing The Unbreakable Boy, so click like and subscribe before I tell you anything about it, because you may not like and subscribe later. This is a lot. This is a lot to get into. Whew. The Unbreakable Boy stars Zachary Levi. It's based on a true story about a dad who actually exists as a human being in this world. He's also the guy behind the Kingdom Stories arm of Lionsgate. And a few years back, he wrote a book called The Unbreakable Boy. I haven't read it, nor will I, ever. And this is the adaptation of that. As many have noted, this was supposed to come out a few years ago and was oddly pulled just days before its release. I don't know why. But having seen the movie, I kind of have a better understanding. But then this is the guy, he runs his own production company. This is his life story. So I don't think it's because he thinks the story is bad. I think it absolutely had to do with timing. Whatever it was in his mind, there was something about the timing or maybe the social imprint of the film. Something wasn't working for him, because there's no way that a guy writes a book about himself and then makes a movie about himself and then goes, you know what? Nobody wants to see him. Nobody wants to see the story about myself. Could be Zachary Levi, although I think more people became aware of his stances more recently, not so much in the 2021, 2022 years. So on specifically autism, where he believes that vaccines cause autism. So he's a great person to be in a lead in a movie about autism. Which is not really even about autism. The movie's called The Unbreakable Boy, and it starts off with him being diagnosed with brittle bone disease, which is genetic that he inherits from his mom, oh God, who hooked up with Zachary Levi's character, the dad of the film, and like on the third date they got pregnant. So this is really a loosely connected Christian movie, since Christians generally are like, no premarital sex. But don't worry, they get their shit together and they get married, which leads to a lot of awkward, I don't even know where to start with this movie. So the movie's really about him. It's not really about the kid. The kid does like narrate a little bit here, which increases his screen time. But if you take his narration out of it, he's really not in the movie that much. He's really, as many have referred to him, as a pet. He's sort of like a leprechaun that's like thrown into the movie and just been like, I'm magically delicious. What wish shall I grant for you in this moment? What is it that you need me to do, sir? I'm here. You summoned? So it is, it's largely about Zachary Levi's dad. I can't remember. I know the guy's name is actually Scott. I think his name is probably still Scott in the movie. I don't know why they changed that. Considering the kid still has the same name. Austin is his son's name, and it's also Austin in real life. So, Scott, he has alcohol problems. He drinks a lot. He drinks even when he complains that they have no money. He's like, we have no money. I'm going to go buy this expensive beer and drink it. Which I always find entertaining. Look, I found the money in the budget. It involves you not drinking. And then even later on, when they finally have found some financial footing and they have to sell everything and they move into like a smaller house, like an older house or whatever, there's a scene where his wife is like pouring like a ton of alcohol down the sink. And I was like, dude, this is a lot. How do you, like a cartoonish amount, she's just like opening like 20 wine bottles. And just like, she just keeps pouring them in this sequence of never ending. You need some help. You need to get help. Get out of my house. So, yeah, there's a lot about this. It's just him. He's got problems, and uh, I guess his kid lifts him up. The end. Except that's not what. No, 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 no. That's you called this movie The Unbreakable Boy for a reason, and none of that is ever really tackled. So Austin's brittle bone disease sort of is like the first thing, and they kind of go into him breaking bones, but all of that's sort of at the beginning before they sort of know he's autistic. And then once he's autistic, that sort of takes over the rest of the movie, and they forget that he also has brittle bone disease, and it doesn't really seem like they're protecting him. He's not like a bubble boy or something like that, where they're being like wrapping him in pillows or something to make sure he doesn't break his bones. They don't really evolve that at all. They just kind of, well, he's autistic now, so I'm sure that cured his bone disease. And I don't know why the movie's called The Unbreakable Boy, but moving on, I guess. So, and then they end up having another kid who I kind of didn't even really notice. He just kind of appears. I feel like that happens a lot in this movie. Um, where characters just kind of like walk in, like, by the way, I exist. Because, I mean, they meet really fast. And then the mom has like a sister that just kind of shows up. And the mom plays a lot of video games too, by the way. Like, they show her as a gamer. And like, they're like, don't shame gamers. She's allowed to game. And like, I mean, true. And in the grand scheme of things, she also, like, her husband is an alcoholic, but I'm not really sure there's anybody in this film that I'm like, wow, this is inspirational AF. I'm so inspired by this movie. My favorite scene is this scene where Zachary Levi is at like rock bottom and he goes home to his mom's house. His mom's played by Patricia Heaton, and he sits there and he's like, I don't know, and then he's got this like teacup in front of him. She's like, pick it up. Now break it. So he drops it on the floor and she picks up the pieces and she's like, this is all of us. I was like, oh my God, what is this? Oh God. Oh, this film needed writers. This film needed autistic writers for representational purposes because, oh, Austin's representation is not great. He's basically limited to gimmicks of representation. Like, he talks really fast. He gets really excited about things. But it doesn't really deal with anything like sensory overload or burnout that you would normally see in autistic representation across, the ability to sort of not fully be able to sort of read the room emotionally, things like that. He just kind of talks a lot. It's just kind of like, I'm annoyed by my child because he talks. I haven't even gotten to the weirdest part of the film yet. I don't even know how to. There's so much to unpack here. But because Austin's autistic, he has medication, which they give him the wrong medication at one point in the film, and it sends him sort of spiraling, where he starts using offensive language. And I think he starts using the offensive language because we're supposed to think that's how he feels about himself, and so he's projecting. I got that. I've seen other people who were offended by the use of the language. I think he's been called. But the film does such a poor job explaining anything that he just kind of just starts using the R word just out of nowhere because he got medication just a few minutes ago, and we all know medication works super fast. Talk about using that as like an out. Be like, oh my God, I'm sorry I sexually harassed you. I took a Xanax 5 seconds ago. It works really fast. I'm not used to Xanax. Imagine if we could just use that as excuse for everything, for all bad behavior everywhere. Oh man, I just took my my diabetes medication. I'm sorry I punched you in the face. It's fast acting. It's probably, I'm just new to it and I haven't gotten acclimated. My bad. I don't I don't know. But anyway, they end up taking him to a literal mental institution. He goes to a mental hospital where he is inpatiented into, and his parents aren't ever really shown visiting him. They're just shown sort of like fretting and worried and be like, I wonder if the institutionalization of our son will help him or not. I'm gonna go with no. But then again, I'm quite aware of the fact that the dad in the film has problematic views on how to treat autistic children, including, well, you can look it up yourself if you want to. Let's just say there are some people who advocate for a form of like shock therapy to help autistic children. Good God. Anyway, so this movie, man. Yeah, everything about this movie is dumb, and the worst part about it is he has a fucking imaginary friend. I shit you not. They gave Zachary Levi, a grown-ass man, a grown-ass imaginary friend. He has like this dude that his son basically compares to Tyler Durden from Fight Club. So his dad probably is also suffering from mental health problems, but we never go into that. It's not like, at the end of the film, it's not like his imaginary friend goes away because his autistic son has cured him of his own mental health issues. No, he has been seeing and has regular conversations with somebody who's represented as a grown-ass man, who later on, I heard, specifically that they actually dress him like Tyler Durden after making the Tyler Durden reference, which is a little too on the nose. But I didn't get that in the audio description. This film does have audio description, by the way. I feel bad for everyone who had to work on this movie. That's doing the true Lord's work, is having provided audio description for this movie. He goes drinking with the guy. It just seems like that this imaginary friend is there for him to bounce ideas off of, and for him to like, be like, no, I'm not that bad of a guy, right? Right? Yeah, you're not. You just, yeah, that's probably the right decision to make. Do you think? Yeah, I think so. It's just, it's so weird. It is so weird. And that this is like autobiographical, that this guy wrote this book about himself and his kid. And like the things that he's willing to admit to, that he's not ashamed of, that he's putting out there for the world. He's like, everybody else puts their kid in mental institutions, right? Just because they're autistic, just for evaluation, weeks on end. I'm like, first of all, what hospital would have taken him for that long? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not talking about, he's not under like a 72-hour hold. This is not what that is. He's there for a while. He's there for so long and he thinks it's like he's not really sure what's happening. And then later on, when his dad is going through problems, his son recommends going to a mental hospital, becoming an inpatient himself, because we've learned nothing. This film has no growth. At the end of the movie, he just kind of uses his son, and his son says something about how his dad never really saw him until he saw what he always saw in his dad, which is that he was a good dad or something. I don't know, some bullshit comment that's made towards the end of the film where you're like, wait a minute, did you just use what is this? Why is this movie called The Unbreakable Boy? Why is this movie hinted to be about your kid when it's not about your kid at all? There's so many things, man. There's a scene, they're baffling. They're just like, I think I spent the whole time with my mouth just like open, just going, what the fuck? There's a scene where the brother, Logan, he's riding a skateboard. First of all, I guess just, Austin, they just trust him to not get on things like skateboards. You have somebody with brittle bone disease, and I don't know, I felt like there wasn't really like a conversation about like, this is just for Logan, right? I guess we're just at a point where Austin is aware I break bones. That's not for me, you know? That's okay. Uh, but so Logan gets a skateboard, and later on, there's this bully character who's horribly underdeveloped, and the kid, Logan, goes back to his brother. He's like, I don't know why you want to be friends with him. And I'm like, does he want to be friends with him? I don't know. We don't spend enough time with Austin to really know what it is that he wants to do in life. I have no idea what he wants to do. He has a lot of movie quotes. Dude nails the monologue, Jack Nicholson's monologue from A Few Good Men. He has like the whole thing memorized. Uh, I don't know why. Again, parenting. You got your kid is like referencing Fight Club and A Few Good Men, and he's in elementary school. I we we should be monitoring the television a little bit more, but that's neither here nor there. We'll just move on from that. Um, so uh, this kid like gets into his face, and I guess he's a bully or whatever, and then uh, Tyler Logan goes back, and Austin's like, oh, but he's sad because his dad's in jail and his mom's really sick, and I just feel bad for him. So like the immediate next scene is uh Logan awkwardly having wrapped the skateboard and giving it to Tyler and being like, I want you to have this. And even like Tyler's like, why? I was like, why also? Uh, I mean, there are a lot of things to do, but you know, I don't know that that's also the way, I don't know that that's the kind of representation, when it's sort of like instant gratification, like it makes you feel better, but I don't know that it actually really helps Tyler. Like Austin talked about what Tyler's problems are, and then you just kind of gave Tyler the thing he wanted to steal in the moment. Tyler's also a kid with like a growing brain himself who isn't quite making adult decisions. He may need more than a skateboard to get by in life if he only has one parent at home and that parent is sick. So it's sort of like the last Kingdom movie that I saw was Best Christmas Pageant Ever. And I was kind of like blown away by the fact that nobody ever really cared where the parents were. And even when they get to the final pageant, like there's no like warm and fuzzy scene where the parents are there to watch the kids do the pageant. Like, it's like it's like the new thing to be Christian is to do sort of the work, but not all of it. You want to do just enough work. It's like throwing somebody one of those like life float things when they fall out of the boat, but not actually pulling them in. Being like, well, you have the device. Am I supposed to do something else? I don't know. I'm not really sure anything in this film works. Um, I didn't really like the acting. And if somebody's gonna come at me and be like, you just don't like Zachary Levi. I actually do as an actor. I have reviews on my channel for the Shazam movies. In this Shazam sequel, I advocate for the fact that he's a good Shazam and should be kept as Shazam. I liked him as Shazam, and I would have kept him. And the little hint that they had at him maybe joining Suicide Squad, I was like, okay, that'd be a cool way to keep him around. I don't think James Gunn is going to, but I would have been for it. And then also, I liked Harold and the Purple Crayon. I did. I enjoyed it. It reminded me of Elf. It's basically a knockoff of Elf with, some other quirks and stuff about being able to draw things in real life. But I enjoyed Harold and the Purple Crayon. Like the only person who did. So The fact that I hate this movie with the fire of 1,000 mountains of spewing lava is it says a lot. I mean, there's really nothing here to take away that's like, wow, this is the message. Uh, if anything, this is a message of like if somebody if I had met Scott and he was like, here, this is a movie about me, I would look at Scott and be like, the fuck is your problem? Like, what? Why do you? Why would you want this out there? Like, why is this your representation? Like, why? And the fact that you realize the sequel to this would be him writing a book about himself and then using his son to propel him into like a different career. It says that he goes on to like work in the medical sales field. It doesn't really acknowledge the fact that he's also a producer of film himself and writes like it's just kind of like, oh, they're still married 29 years later or something, whatever it is. Um, in sort of like the where are they now sequence. It's not like, well, this is the guy that runs Kingdom for Lionsgate. So yeah, I'm not there's not really anything here. The autism representation is really poor. Uh the acting is not great. I don't like bashing child actors, so I just need to say in one statement, I have not been able to find anything about the child playing Austin being autistic. He's really hard to understand. So from a casting standpoint, I understood about half of what he said. And I know he's speaking really fast, but he's not the most um, uh, intelligible actor out there for that casting purpose. But then again, they don't really give Austin anything meaningful to say because he's not the lead of his own film. Zachary Levi is, and his alcoholism and that. So, and then just generally being an asshole, like admittedly they don't know a lot about each other, but he gets really mad at her because she was married twice before and she didn't bring that up. Um, I mean, I guess at like some point, but also it's like worth having a conversation instead of flying off the handle. So it's just sort of like how you approach each scene. And I think about the fact that this is how he wants to be represented. And then I guess at the end of the film, because a magic wand was waved by his little genie child who, brings magic into the world, uh, he's cured of all of this. And we're supposed to believe he's better because, but I don't know that he is. Dude may still talk to, a giant imaginary friend that's a human looking person. He may still fly off the handle. He may still advocate for kids to go to mental institutions for weeks on end so that people can figure out what's up with their autism. There's so many things in this film that I don't know that we solve the problem or if he has an understanding of why something was problematic or whether or not I I hate fake inspirational movies, and I don't bash. I know people are going to be like, oh, I hear you using the F word and you're not into Christian movies. And it's like, what I would say first is, fuck you, random person who came into this thinking that I just have a channel to bash. I don't. I have a channel primarily to talk about being blind and audio description and stuff like that. But we also have to talk about representation for other disabilities too, which autism is recognized as one. And in a day and age where people are trying to spread a lot of misinformation about autism, I think it's important to not have films that spread misinformation about autism. Although this film really doesn't even talk about like autism in depth, it just kind of uses it as like a tool. So it's even worse because it's just like, my son's autistic, so now I'm an alcoholic, the movie. Uh, so I, I've given positive reviews to this director's last movie, Ordinary Angels. I gave that a B. I gave Zachary Levi's, and these reviews exist on my channel, so you can see them and be like, oh yeah, he did actually give these movies. I gave Harold the Purple Crayon a B+ for Zachary Levi representation. I gave the best Christmas pageant ever got a B- from me because most of it worked, except for I did kind of wonder why they didn't look for the parents. Um, yeah, in general, I have been able to find uh, something in some of these movies, and I'm not just initially like, well, it's faith-based, so it's going to be terrible. Some of that is true, um, but it usually has to do with production values. It's becoming less and less true as studios seem to finance films like this with stars and actual talent, and films are competently shot and edited now. It was more of a problem like 20, 25 years ago when we had films like The Omega Code, which were just like poorly written and they couldn't get good actors in them. So they had like Casper Van Dien. It's like starring in and like Kirk Cameron was anchoring the original Left Behind movie. So now we have different movies and we have different actors playing in them and starring in them, and people who move in and out of faith-based movies that aren't necessarily trying to prop up faith-based cinema, but they're being hired legitimately because they need good actors in the movies, and they understand that just hiring somebody off the street is not as good as hiring like Hilary Swank to be in Ordinary Angels. So the overall quality is improving, but this story is problematic in like 700 different ways, and results in a movie that is impossible to love. And I look at critics who they admit the fact that the movie's problematic and then they throw it away. And a couple people are like, well, yeah, but I don't pay attention to all that. I just am here because it's a movie. And it's like, it's a movie, but how can you ignore all of that? The movie is still not about the boy. It's about the dad. The movie still has, I mean, like within it, even if you cut out everything you know about Zachary Levi, or if you know nothing about the guy who wrote the book or anything like that, if you just take it center stage, I'm not autistic and I don't have a family member who is. And even I look at this film and I go, this representation is terrible. And then to actually hear autistic people speak on the representation of this in the film is even more eye-opening to when you listen to that. And then to blow that off is like, well, I checked it. It was something I clocked anyway. And now that I have it reinforced from people in the community, like if I tell you that, I don't know, blind representation or something in a movie, not Daredevil, I'm not going to do that. It's a comic book movie. It's not supposed to have any basis in reality. People have superpowers and stuff in those movies. It's just, I'm trying not to say that Daredevil is negative representation of blind people. He's like a whole different thing in and of his own. I don't know what, off the top of my head, what negative blind representation I would find, but I'm sure it's out there. Generally, it's the representation where we are able to like, we're like sage and we're able to like see the future. There's that like blind old lady and she's sitting there and she has like some sort of like second sight. That's kind of like a weird representational tool that blind people seem to be, shoved into. So if you're kind of ignoring but those are usually like side characters in movies, not really about that person. So this would have to be about a blind person and then also use poor representation. So, but this is a movie that's about an autistic kid and then uses poor representation to shape that autistic kid. And then in turn makes the movie about the father, who's played by an actor who has problematic ideas on autism, based on a book written by a guy who has problematic views on how to treat autism. So really the whole thing, there's nothing really here. There's no here. This is one, it's one of the worst experiences I've had this year. So I can't really, the positives is that it's competently acted. Like, other than the fact that I would like to have a lead boy who's dialogue I could understand. I really don't. I'm uncomfortable making notes on children, on child actors. So I'm trying to say that in the most direct and informational way possible. Other than that, uh, I I like. I thought the actors in general, Megan Fahey was. I mean, based on what she's given, it's not given a lot to do. It's not her film. Unfortunately, she doesn't get to be a recovering alcoholic inspired by her child. Uh, it's fine. Like the acting is fine. Um, that's really the only thing that's like the saving grace for this movie at all. Everything else is a mess. This film is. This film is like a strong do not recommend. I do not recommend this film, said Sam I am. I do like the audio description though. I thought Roy Samuelson's audio description was fine. It's not a particularly difficult movie to describe. Um, I couldn't think of too many moments where I was like, I don't understand what's happening here. I think a lot of that has to do with just narratively how the film is structured and how they cut corners to get to things, like how there's an imaginary friend, but they don't really explain it. There just is. You know, like it's kind of like there's just things are. Like that's where they are. Um so I I would say avoid this at all costs. I'm gonna give the Unbreakable Boy a D. I probably should go to a D minus, but I I didn't hate the actors, including Zachary Levi as an actor. The performance that he gives, his character is obnoxiously written, but uh, he plays it okay. It's actually kind of it's there's something to be said for being able to play a really poorly written character at any level. You know, oftentimes we look at these movies and it's really clear that the script is what's failing and not the performers. And you can tell when it's a performer because then it's like everybody else around them is good except the one performer. But when all the performers are kind of on point and it's just the scenes and the dialogue that don't work and like the structure of the film, then it becomes sort of a writer directorial problem and not the actors. And I can't say that anybody here was necessarily worse than anybody else. They're all kind of functioning on the same level, which means it's not their fault. It is actually on the screenplay director side this time that the film was written this way, edited this way, shot this way, and then sent out as a final product this way. So yeah, I'm giving Zachary Levi a pass from a standpoint of being on camera. I still wish he would have better viewpoints. I'm constantly able to separate his on-screen persona from his off-screen persona. I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to do that. He constantly tests my patience. But as somebody who grew up, you know, not really grew up, I was a grown-ass adult when Chuck came out. But as somebody who remembers Chuck, I've liked Zachary Levi for a while now, and that was before I knew anything about his thoughts. So he hasn't totally lost me yet. I'm just hoping that maybe he makes better life choices and turns himself around and, I don't know, gets help and then writes a book about it and how being in a film about an autistic boy that flopped at the box office changed his life. And then there's a movie about it and he doesn't star in it, but then somebody else stars in it. And it becomes sort of like an inception of being inspired by things that maybe we shouldn't be inspired by to become hopefully better people, but probably not. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.